Yo and hello everybody, Mike Moynihan here with Bench Clear Media, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast. Oh, it's been a great couple of weeks. We've spent the last 2 weeks dissecting our favorite sets from the 50s, from the 60s, and this week we're going to do the 70s. Looking back, I probably would have reversed them, honestly. That would have probably been a little more, that would have made a little more sense, but the reality is it doesn't matter what order I talk about these decades in. It's so much fun. And I really appreciate you guys coming along for the journey. You can see here, I've got drawers from the Beast pulled out from cards from the 70s. I've got a couple more drawers, cards from the 70s that I will maybe dive into here in a little bit. But I wanted to first give a shout out to the show's sponsor, which is Card Hedge, which is cardhedger.com. Go check them out for any card analytics, checking out prices, anything like that. Card Hedge, just Google it, or it's the cardhedger.com. Check them out. You'll enjoy it. You get a 7-day free trial if you put in the code BenchClearMedia. So thanks to them for sponsoring the show. And of course, this week, I got to have some friends, the same friends, as a matter of fact, to talk to me about this. And that's Don, Field of Dreams Cards, and George, Diamond Yard Sports Cards. Welcome, guys, back again. Are you guys ready to be done with this? Are y'all sick of talking to me about sports cards?
Absolutely not.
I will agree with Don 100%. Absolutely not.
It's so funny how, as collectors, and A, all three of us are collectors. B, not that none of us, you guys sell stuff if you need to, but we're collector mindsets, and we are all the same, pretty much the same age. Don's the senior citizen in the room, but
But I have the most hair.
That is kind of sad, actually, that's true. Luckily, people on the podcast never see my bald head because usually I have it covered up with a cap. But we can talk about this stuff for days, and what I don't think people realize is, we talk before the show, we will talk after the show. Like it doesn't just stop when I hit record, or start when I hit record and stop when I hit stop record. We keep talking and we text each other, and we're showing off stuff, and hey, should I do this? Hey, should I do that? All the time. And that's the great thing about having a community, having friends. So I appreciate you guys' friendship. Before we get too deep into this and getting into the 70s, I just appreciate you guys doing this for the last few weeks, and it's been great. So thank you.
No, thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad you asked me to come on. I'm having a blast.
So the 70s, what a great decade for baseball cards. We've got another decade dominated by tops, but that will end, at the end, starting in the early 80s, we get Donruss and Fleer come into the fold. So this is the last full decade of really only tops. And I would be remiss to not mention the 70s has so many great, more than just tops cards, right? Outside of tops. And I may even talk about a few of them tonight just because I love them so much. But we're going to focus on tops in terms of our favorite sets is what we're going to do, least favorite sets, and most underrated set that we think, or maybe even overrated set. We could do that. We did that last week. George threw that out there, and I thought that was a good spin on things. So, George, I think you're up this week to talk about your favorite set from the 1970s. I know this was tough for you.
This is tough. This is really tough because these are all awesome sets to me. I mean, I was going through and my favorite sets, and I probably had like 3 or 4 on my list because I like them all. Even the one that I put that I didn't like so much was really, I looked and I had a bunch of cards from that set too. So I guess I'm going to jump right into the cards. We can set the tone of the 70s, but boy, it's just a decade of change and free agency, reserve clause being challenged, all of this stuff going around with the different. We had Dynasty, and then with A's, and then we had the Big Red Machine, and then we had the Yankees coming back to prominence, and so it just was really a huge decade. And I was looking at some Mel Allen 70s documentary today about the fact that attendance records were broken in the 70s. Like baseball was so popular. We want to think about the 50s and the 60s being this golden age, but the 70s baseball was like had its foot to the floor and had new stadiums and all kinds of new stuff. So my favorite set of the 70s. This is so tough.
You're not going to tell me We Are Family?
What's that? Yeah, I was almost there. I know. Yeah. And then it begins, and it ends then with the Pirates. I mean, the Pirates kind of start that decade in a way. They won the 71, and then they won 79. So all these great franchise. The A's were like the rebels, right? But then all these historical franchises won championships and the players. But it still was its expansion was still happening. Anyway, to answer your question, my favorite set, this is really tough. This is like 1 and 1A and 1B. 1972 tops. 1972 tops. To me, it's probably not many collectors' favorite sets of this era, but for me, I really like it. I love the fact that I'll just show some cards here. You got like this three-dimensional. Here's a Yaz. The three-dimensional way it comes out. I think Topps is really spending their time on this set to try to make it really cool. There's a lot of batting poses. Here's a rose and an 8. I mean, it just comes out at you. The colors are really vibrant. The star cards are really cool. And this was the biggest set that Topps had produced at that point. Here's a Carew. This is a high number. And again, coming out at you with really bold colors. I mean, I read an article about the name of the article was on the PSA website, and it was called like the psychedelic 72s. And I really think it's kind of psychedelic the way this works. Here's a Hank Aaron and 8. The colors are great. And it's a big set. There's the childhood stars. There's rookies like Fisk. Here's a 72 Fisk. Cecil Cooper rookie. There's the Mays. You have the end of these stars like Mays and Aaron and stuff. You have in-action poses. You got Reggie, beautiful Reggie there on the A's. Yeah, there's the Willie in action that Mike's showing. Here's a Rose. Right. Rose is really not in action, but so I thought there's key Hall of Famers, there's star cards, there's it's a psychedelic set to me. You have the traded set. You got Joe Morgan's first card. I'm sorry, Don, what were you showing?
It was Jim Palmer. I keep forgetting that this is a podcast too.
Jim Palmer, today I was watching the Prime 9 of the 70s, and their number one pitcher of the 70s on MLB's Prime 9, the pitcher of the decade, Jim Palmer. 20 wins, 8 times. It's crazy. Yeah. But, the bench, he won the MVP in 72. And then, lastly from 72, probably one of my favorite 70s cards. This is a 72 Clemente and a 9. And it just, what is he thinking here? I've talked about this on my channel a little bit, kind of the fates and everything that's going to happen and everything that's happened. So the backs are cool. Cardstock's nice because it's orange to me. I mean, there are other issues, and you guys know this in the 70s, that their cardstock really makes the cards not look so slick. You know what I mean? Like they were going cheap on cardstock or something was my opinion. But in 72, I think they were coming off a great year in 71 with what they produced. And to me, 72 is my top set.
All right, Don, what do you think about his selection there?
At one time, I couldn't stand that set. But over time, it has grown on me, which I think I said that about the 62 tops. I've never had a set that I like that I dislike now, but I have had some sets that have gone the other way. And I really like the 72s. Not my favorite, but I just think they're cool cards. The psychedelic, like you said, George, look to them is pretty cool. Can you pull that Rod Carew back up, George?
Yeah. You like this one, Don? This is for you and all the Pirates fans. Look at that. Look at Manny Sanguillen.
There's a good one.
It's a great card, of that. But yeah, I'll pull the 72 Carew up, which again, if you're a Carew collector like I was, I know Mike was, that this is a hard card. It's a hard card to get. I love the batting poses too, like with Carew, Rose, right? A lot of the players.
Keep that up a minute. Yeah. Put that up. The reason I asked you to show that is I love that card because of the player in the background. He's putting a baseball.
Yeah.
right
there it is.
And I just thought that was always cool on that card, and I
Oh,
didn't
that's
notice
cool.
that for years.
The Ryan in the 72 is very tough. I
Is it?
mean, it's a very tough card. It's a semi-high number. It is always off center. I have it in a PSA 7, and I paid a lot. I paid up for it. You know, I had to pay a lot of money to get that. I have the beautiful Karoo as well.
Nice. And I would say that from a collecting perspective and a prices perspective, I know we're not talking prices too much on this, but these, like vintage basketball, there's the beautiful Carlton. These 70s cards were like criminally undervalued for a while, for like the last, up until like a year and a half ago. You could get into a Hank Aaron or a Roberto Clemente like in a 7 for under $100. Like this, I'm talking about like 2 years ago. They just kind of sat there for a long time while all the 60s cards generally went up of the stars. And then the 70s cards were just kind of like the
forgotten children.
I'm sorry?
Forgotten children of the decade, really.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden now they've, people realize, boy, getting a 7 of a Nolan Ryan, that's hard to get a nice one. And it's high grade, so I think the 70s cards generally, even late 70s, if you look late 70s cards, you'll be like, wow, that George Brett in a 9 is going for like $150. Like what? This wasn't the case a couple of years ago, like with a lot of things.
Sure. I would say 72 is not my favorite set. I would agree with Dawn that it was a set I was never a huge fan of necessarily, but it's grown on me over the years. I like the inaction. It's the first year of the inaction stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a neat innovation in that set. If people are looking for going to get Hall of Famers, you may not be able to afford the base card, but you go find a nice example of the inaction cards. And it's still a Willie Mays card or a Carl Yastrzemski or whatever player you're talking about. So those are, I think it's great to have those options if you're trying to just get a nice example of that player from that year.
The Hank Aaron in action card is actually more, I believe, than his regular card because it is so off center. He's just running and he's out of shape and he's running and it's terribly off center and it's hard to find. And I think it goes for like an 8. It goes for as much or more as his regular card. Yeah, there it is. That's a nice copy.
It's a 6, and it's off center for sure. No doubt. I guess it's where it was on the sheet, right? Not great. And I love the Clemente too. I have that in an 8. So always loved that card. And his inaction card is great too. That
isn't that the one where he's putting his neck back? Yeah.
Yeah. He's looking back. Going,
yeah.
Dang it. Did he just call that a strike? That's what I always think he's thinking. Like, no, that's not a strike. Come on.
Yeah, they did a lot of inaction cards of a lot of people, not just the stars, and some of them aren't so flattering, frankly. If you've seen the Seaver, he's kind of like really mad. He's on the mound. Some of them aren't flattering. So I will admit that certainly they were getting with the 787 cards they produced. They were reaching to some degree, but like there's like 4 or 5 Hank Aarons in the set. There's a lot of, if you want to get a leader's card or something, you'll find leader's cards with Hank and Willie Stargell and stuff like that on them.
They also had these boyhood heroes or boyhood photos of the stars or whatever in the 72. This is a Stargell. Seaver, Torrey, there's some key guys that have, or Hall of Famers that have those cards, which are kind of neat, kind of different, which is how they made it such a big set. And then adding the traded set.
Right? Oh, yeah.
First time that had been done. So, man, okay, 72. We got to keep going because we'll be on here for like 3 hours. Dawn, favorite set of the 70s?
So for me, I've got a little story. This is the first decade that I was actually pulling cars out of packs. I believe you two started in the 80s. So in the 50s and 60s, I was basing my favorite sets on just how much I liked the looks of those cars, where in the 70s, I have some history with the set that I'm going to talk about. It's the first set that I started collecting, that I opened packs from. I think I told this story on another podcast of yours, Mike. I had fallen on my bicycle over my neighbor's house, tore my knee up, got a bunch of stitches put in it. And the woman whose house it was where I got hurt brought me over a pack of baseball cards. And that pack was the 1976 Topps, which is my favorite. This card could have possibly came out of that pack. This is a beauty. It's got the rare D's on the back. And so this card is from my childhood that I've kept. Now, this is probably the worst condition card I have, but that's I'll never get rid of that card as trash as it is. It's just, it brings back memories. And love the way the set looks. Got the Hank Aaron. Here's a tough card to get centered. George Brett.
Yep.
There's a story behind this card, at least for me. So first of all, I think it's cool that it shows Lou Brock doing what he's known for, stealing bases. And this card was actually, or this photo was actually photographed in 1973. And the reason I know that is that Jackie Hernandez back here has a 21 patch on his arm. And they only wore that patch in 1973 to honor Clemente. So it's a 76 Topps, but the photo was taken 3 years before. And my mom, would go on, my parents would go on business trips and we'd go over our aunt and uncles. My mom would hide a pack of these in our suitcase. And as a surprise. And that's why I love this set. Here's the only Hall of Fame rookie in the set, Eckersley. And we used to we had a store called Murphy's Mart, sort of like a Target or a Kmart, something like that. If you guys had those, you obviously have Target. And we would go through the cello packs and I would pass on a Jim Palmer because I was looking for Pirates. Got Dave Parker here. So
that Dave Parker card is awesome.
Yeah, I love that card. He's got the necklace on. It looks like seashells. Like it's so 70-ish. And this is actually my favorite card from the set. I love this Johnny Bench. To me, it looks like the dust is flying up. He looks pissed. It looks like someone just slid home. He doesn't have the ball. They scored. There you go. Are you getting one out, Mike?
What card number is it?
300.
Let's see if I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always liked that catcher's mitt he has is huge.
I know.
Let's do it.
So there we go. So for me, collecting cards in the 70s, you guys probably all know who Rich Klein is.
Sure.
I saw him on a podcast, and he made a good point. We knew all the players because of the cards. I didn't have ESPN. I didn't have the internet in the 70s. So I knew who all the players were through baseball cards. Where kids today, my kids, they see these players on video games, on the internet, on TV. We didn't have that. But I knew who every player was just because of the cards. And that's what Rich had brought up. And it's a very good point.
I think you're right because I think Mike and I probably have had a similar experience. And I remember the big deal like in the 70s, the free agency was, well, there's going to be a card where, whoever it is, later on, Nolan Ryan is going to be an Astro and you want to get his first card, or Caru's going to be an Angel, or Reggie, went to Baltimore. Can I get a card with Reggie on it being an Oriole, or am I going to get a Reggie who's a Yankee in 77 or 78? And so I think that has a lot to do with it too. Like you would know who the players were and you might watch a game and then figure out, oh, they cut this guy, but you wouldn't know because you had his baseball card and he was on the Pirates or something.
Right.
Tell the story, Don, about the baseball card. Why is it marked up on the back?
So I have a brother that's a year younger than me and he collected as well. So I would put my initials on the back so he wouldn't take my cards, which now I want him to take these cards and I'll take the other ones. But I don't know if you can see, but I would mark, the little square boxes because that's what we thought they were for. You'd mark down which player you had. And that's how
that is what they were for. That is what they were for.
Yeah.
So that was purely so my brother wouldn't steal my cards.
The 76 set, it's going to be interesting. Well, I'll talk about it later. What do you think about the 76, George?
It's very similar to the set that I put as my least favorite set, but the 76 set over the last 15 years has grown on me, and it's far superior to the set I'm going to mention later that I'm not such a big fan of. Again, I'm a fan of all these, But I think that, 76, they got the All-Star on it. There's Thurman Munson. You got the All-Star. I like the All-Star. You've got second-year cards of guys, key Hall of Famers like Yount and Brett. And you showed the Brett, which is the most difficult card that I know of in the 70s. There's no PSA 10s. And I'm not saying PSA is determining everything about this, but anybody who's had one of those cards knows if it's centered 50-50, I don't care if it's a 2, you need to keep that card and don't sell it. I sold one like 2 years ago, and I completely regret it. It's got rookie cups. This Fred Lynn, it's coming off the MVP and Rookie of the Year. I think it's really cool. And this is the first time I ever got an all-time Hall of Famer. I was trading with my buddies, and they have these Sporting News All-Stars. There it is. Yeah, Ty Cobb, Ted Williams. And so you knew. I didn't open packs of these. I don't believe that Mike did either. I'm not sure. Mike, you never opened packs of 76s.
No.
I did. I have open packs of 76s at the card shop in the 80s. And they were really badly cut, really badly cut. But these, I think this is I like this set a lot. It's not my favorites, but it's just got some fantastic cards in it.
There's a Ryan as well with 76. It's got the newspaper ripped on top.
In the traded set, yeah. And it's got I think is Marichal in that, and
no, he's in the 74 traded.
Oh, he is. You're right.
But the 76 was almost my least favorite set. I'll go ahead and talk about it. It was almost my least favorite set, and it's mainly because of the lack of Hall of Fame rookies. You only have Eckersley, right? There's not a ton of huge cards. You do have the last card of Hank Aaron, right? So that's pretty awesome. And what made it not my least favorite is what you mentioned, George, and that's these Sporting News all-time All-Stars. I just think that's a great little subset. What's great, all the cards on the back have the players' full stats. So if you wanted to go learn about Lou Gehrig or, like you said, Ty Cobb or whatever, you could go read their whole stats on the back and be like, whoa, these guys were pretty good. No kidding. So I just thought that was a cool innovation. That kind of kept it from the bottom for me. But do you want to hear my favorite set from the 70s?
No, we're good.
Sir.
Oh, okay. That's the end of the show then. No.
See what you have there, Mike.
I think it's between 1 and 2 sets.
You want to try to guess? You want to try to guess?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
73.
Okay.
Wait, and I saw someone comment that in our last video, and I know that's the year that Mike's was born, so that makes sense. But he also made the comment that he hated the sets that there were vertical and horizontal cards. I think that's what's I don't know what his favorite is, but I don't think it's that because of that reason.
It is not 73. It's not my favorite set. But it is 1975 tops. I thought for the longest time I hated this set. I thought it was butt ugly. And I have just over the years, especially when you see a bunch of the cards together, you know what I mean? Because the colors change so much and you've just got just amazing stars. Aaron is still around. Brooks Robinson still has a card. You've got
Robinson.
Harmon Killebrew's last card is in 75. I just think the color combinations, I don't know. It's my favorite set of the 70s, which is kind of crazy. If you would have asked me that a decade ago, I would have never said 75. So I just love it.
I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. That was my next guess. That was my second or my 1A, 1B, 75. I think that most people would tell you that's like the set in the 70s for a multitude of reasons. You've got what? How many Hall of Famers do you have in that? Yeah, right there.
Then you have Jim Rice. You've got
the kid. You've got who was it? Carter Hernandez.
Carter,
right?
Card.
Fred Lynn. Fred Lynn's rookie. So there's a lot of stars and Hall of Famers. I remember trying to find that Brett rookie as a kid. That was the card I wanted because in the 80s, he was just such a stud, and that was such an expensive card when I was a kid.
Card.
Oh, I love that Winfield. That thing, the color on that thing is just great.
So it's weird that it's funny though. I don't know if I could tell you that there's one, like I have much more cards from other sets that I would say are my favorite cards from the 70s. But in terms of overall set appeal, the 70s or the 75 does it for me, which is weird. Like I don't know that a card from that set would be in my top 20 of my favorite cards from the decade. But that I know that's weird, but the whole set is just fantastic. I just love all of it, so that is my favorite set. What about this will be interesting to see what I'm excited to see what you guys say. Don, your least favorite set of the 70s.
All right, let me pull these up. Although
it's funny, I think we might all, because everybody knows we don't know what each other have picked. I think we might all three pick the same set. It wouldn't shock me a bit if we all three picked the same set.
I probably did because it's the ugliest set that was made. Let me get mine out here. You know what? Going back to the 75s, I like the 75s a lot as well, but for some reason I can't stand the mini cards.
Really?
I don't see a point to them. They're just duplicates. They're a funny size. Why were they even made except to make more money? I don't have one in my collection. I just have no interest in those.
Interesting.
And
here's a mini.
Here's a mini of bench.
A bench. It looks the same.
Here are the ugliest cards in the ugliest set.
79.
These black and white rookies. These are terrible. Why do we have black and white cards in 1979? And there's no stars. I think Pedro Guerrero is the biggest star. Come on, he's good. Not.
Would you rather have Pedro Guerrero or Harold Baines in their prime? In their prime.
Neither.
I'm just kidding.
That is not the set that I chose. Just so everybody knows, I did not choose 79.
And apparently George didn't either. This set's terrible. No, it's not terrible. I mean, like we said, they're all sets we like, but it's got the big Topps logo on it. Pretty boring card, if you ask me. Eddie Murray. The only thing that I think saves this set are the All-Star cards. I think the extra All-Star banner on them makes them a little bit nicer. The Garvey. There's another ugly 8 card of a bunch of nobodies. I think Bruce Bochy might have a rookie card in this set too.
He does, as a matter of fact.
There's just, to me, there's no imagination in these at all. And to pull these off, these are.
Oh my gosh, Don. George, any comments on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, George.
Okay, so no, I'm ready to go on this one. This is great. This kind of goes right into what we were talking about, and kind of one of the reasons why we were talking 75, right? And one of the reasons why you said you actually think that 79 you might be able to swallow it just a little bit was because it had the cool all-stars on it, right? So here's a regular bench, 75 with the all-stars on it. And so these are the first time that they put the little star on it. And for an all-star, which I think is just super cool. Really neat thing about 75. Here's a 75 rows. And all the best players of the era seem to be making the all-star team, right? And so the same thing with 79. I agree with you that the all-star banner, here's a Reggie for 79. I think it looks great. And as a matter of fact, I think the National League all-star banner just looks super cool with the color. I just think it's really neat. I don't dislike 79 like Don does. I understand where he's coming from. The cards kind of look a little, it's the Topps logo that they put on there. Here's a Brett. The Topps logo is kind of strange, right? It seems like they're really advertising for themselves. And kind of an odd design like that.
Here and Donruss and everyone else was coming out in a couple of years.
Yeah, but I wrote this down. I mean, on my notes here, I was writing down underrated sets of the 70s, the 79 being one, in my opinion. But I also did write here great all-star cards, all-star banner, but terrible rookie prospects cards in black and white. They have terrible picture quality. Like I don't know if they're trying to make them look old or something. The last thing you want a young ball player to do is like look old. And that's what they accomplished. Those might be the worst cards of the 70s. The prospects from 79. I'm on board with Don on that totally.
It's interesting because I put my most underrated set of the 70s, I'll just disclose this now, is 79. So I think it's underrated. And I again, you only have one key rookie really, which is Ozzie Smith, Hall of Fame rookie anyway, is Ozzie Smith. Very notoriously difficult card to get centered and in good shape, is the Ozzie. But overall, I kind of like the banners. And maybe it's because of being a kid and I starting collecting in 81. Anything in the 70s to me felt old, because I'm 8 years old. So it is old compared to me at that time. And so I always thought, God, if I can get some 79 cards and 78, 77s, all that just felt like, man, these cards are really old, And so
Yep.
Those are what I opened.
That plays into it. You can't take the emotion out of card collecting. In fact, if we did, what would be the point of doing any of this if we took the emotions out of card collecting? And so that plays into it 100% for me, which is why I think it's so underrated. But because I do think a lot of people just hate it, the 79. And I think it's for good reason. And that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would be bummed, even though it's cool. Here's a picture. Here's the Astrodome, but it's just so lame looking. It really doesn't look good. I agree with that. But I'm the same way, Mike. I had packs of these when I was real young, packs of 78s, but I didn't know what to do with them. I opened them up. I had the gum. I flipped through them. I gave the cards to the big kids on the block. I moved on and waited to get more gum. Yeah, it wasn't until the early 80s where I started to really rip packs and be looking for Fernando or whoever. It's so weird. You can have, like, I'll give you an example. You can have a decent looking card with an all-star banner. Here's a beautiful Vita Blue. You may not think so, Don, but it's a heck of a lot better looking.
I like the all-star cards. That's what I said. Those.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, then you've got cards like David Klein, and you're just like, man, that's so boring. I mean, the hairstyles are great. The sideburns are great. Which is what the 70s are full of. I've got a couple cards here of some like really wacky hairdos and stuff. But it's underrated to me for the star cards, but I wouldn't be building a set of 79 myself.
Fair enough. Least favorite set, George?
It's between two, but I have cards from this set too, and I think 1974 Topps. I think 1974 Topps is really, really boring. There isn't much going on it. I mean, there's some great pictures of the stars. Like, I mean, the Joe Morgan's a fantastic card. The bench looks good. The rows, but it's just like the banner on the top, the banner on the bottom. There's no all-star. They have all-star cards later on, which are some great cards. But I just was not excited about that set. There's the bench. Yeah. And the photography's kind of got tints to it that maybe like it wasn't, I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
the 74 Nolan Ryan is another tough one.
Yeah. I mean, and Ryan that's a great card. I think it's a really good looking card. I can't get past the design. You guys are killing me because they're showing the best cards from the set. That Fisk is awesome. Yeah.
We're trying to make a point of why it shouldn't be your least favorite set, maybe. I don't
know.
I
mean, I got the same stuff. I mean, this Seaver, I do love the Seaver. That Reggie's awesome, right? I got the Seaver. I mean, Mike Schmidt's second-year card. Joe Morgan's really cool. Yeah, it's a fan. Mike's showing the Morgan. Here's the Mike Schmidt. I mean, they're beautiful. But I just don't Stargell. But the pictures are really great, and the design is so bad and so boring.
Did you already show the Reggie? The
Yeah,
Reggie.
Don just showed the Reggie.
Parker's rookie.
Parker's rookie. And I'm not diminishing the rookie class. I mean, it's great. Yes. But I mean, this is just, it's a nice card. It's just not super exciting to me. I don't know. They had the Washington National. They printed the Nationals cards, right?
Except for Winfield for some reason.
Yeah, there was only a few. There's different ones that were printed. McCovey has a National League. And then he's got a Padres. Yeah, very cool, Mike. Very cool. So, I mean, do all these cards change my opinion? Maybe the other one I don't like also. I don't know. But it's just not. I mean, I have a lot of cards from it. You see here. And it's got these autographed team cards.
Yeah, I never liked them.
Didn't like them, right? After Parker and Winfield, and Parker should be a Hall of Famer, but he's not. I mean, there's like a Ken Griffey rookie, but there's probably about 10, 12 cards out of this set I'd really like to have, and I'm not really into the rest of them. So maybe I'm off here, but what do you think, Mike?
Well, my least
I can tell by what you're showing.
My least favorite set of the 70s is 74. And it's because it's just so boring. Okay. It's not that there's not, and I think it's kind of this, it feels like, the photography in 73 is so bad to me. Some people love it. I think it's just atrocious. If you look at a whole 73 top set, you're going to be just like, oh my gosh, did they even have lenses on these cameras when they took these pictures? And it feels like there was some carryover for that into 74 tops. So again, there are some, it's fun. Please, guys, don't think that we are just bashing on the 70s. Like, it's not.
No, I love that. These cards are awesome.
It's just
we just showed you a bunch of cards from sets we may not like.
Yeah, exactly. We have tons of them, and so if I just didn't, the design was boring, and it doesn't do a whole lot for me. I do love the Winfield card. I really do.
I was pumped to get this Carew years ago. It's a 9, and I got it for like $45.
Yeah,
right back in whatever. I was like, cool, Rod Carew. I mean, I'm excited to get it.
So yeah, I mean,
the road on this set. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's just sort of there. But I get where you guys are coming from, because it's a lot like, to me, the 79, boring. There's just not a lot of pizzazz to it. So I definitely see where you're coming from on that.
But Don, to your point, and this is true, the 74 and 79 are not that dissimilar.
Right.
You just, instead of having 2 banners, you have 1 banner, right? On the 79,
yep.
74 has 2. There's no logos on 70. It's just the team name, and I love logos, so I'm a big logo guy. I think that's really cool on cards.
I'm really surprised that, going back to favorite sets, that no one picked 71. Like, to me, visually, it's my favorite set, but because I have the history with 76, that's where I went with that. I was surprised. I thought for sure 71 was going to be someone's favorite.
Well, it's funny. I was going to put 71 as my most underrated set, but I don't think 71 is underrated anymore. I think it has become incredibly appreciated for the difficulty to find nicely centered, non-chipped cards. The black, everybody talks about the black borders being, and they are. The point is because they are. You get super high premiums for nice grades of star players in 71. I mean, the 71 Clemente is one of my favorite cards of all time. My favorite card of the 70s, which I know we're not there yet, but I have to show it just because I have it in front of me, is the Thurman Munson. That is my favorite card from the entire decade.
It is not cheap or easy to find in nice shape.
Yeah, it is tough to find.
I have a 5. I think that this was raw, and I sent it in. I sent this in so long ago that it's on it's not even a hollow flip. It's like a. That's how long it's a 2 is the serial number. What does that tell you about how long ago I sent this in? I sent in the 70 and the 71, and the 70 Thurman Munson is very nondescript. It's nothing to write home about, but the 71 is just, again, my favorite card from the whole decade. So it is, I think 71 is just so, it is what it is. And it's a well-loved set, Don, I think 70's underrated a lot. I think it's a great set.
I actually like 73 a lot. Mike, you talked about the shots on it. I just think there's so many cool in action shots. Like I love this Munson, and even not just the stars. I mean, there's so many great cars. I love this Brooks Robinson.
How about a great card from 73, which is the all-time home run leaders card number 1 in the set. You've got Ruth, Aaron, and Mays, both before the finish.
Yeah. This is such a great card that Don was showing this bench. I mean, I think the 73 set has some of the most fantastic action shots. I think they were trying. They just the photography wasn't quite as crisp as they would have liked. That was an awesome Killebrew.
Clemente's last card.
Yeah, I was pulling the same card out. Yeah, it's a beautiful card. I mean, I think they really tried on this set. Yeah. There are very few cards on this set that I'm like, boy, that's a stinker. Here's a Seaver. It's not spectacular, but I like how the red in the corner. The Ryan, he's winding up. That's a good one. So I mean, there aren't like the Willie Mays in this set is not great. He looks really kind of out of it.
Hunter.
Oh, Catfish, nice.
Yeah, then Fisk has the cup card. I mean, it's not a special card, but the cup card is kind of quiet.
Yeah, that's a neat one. Reggie, what is Reggie doing there? Is he throwing?
Yeah.
That's your photography you're talking about. It's just really kind of blurry.
Yes,
but
that's the problem. Not that they weren't trying to do action. I think the in action set from 72. Hey, why don't we just put these on regular cards? Okay, great, but it's the photo quality, not the attempt. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know because that card that's his MVP year, and it's a really like cool to have. My thought is it's cool to have players in their MVP year. And I've been looking for that card for a long time. And when I'm about to pull the trigger, I'm like, I don't even know what he's doing in that card. Like, I don't know. But here's the maze. And it's so hard to find a copy where it doesn't look like washed out, or he doesn't look like his skin is really, this was tough to find a decent one. But still, he looks kind of like, are you ready to take the picture yet? Can I go? That's what Willie's thinking here. I swear to God.
He probably was at that point.
He's, but you were right, Don. You showed the Munson, right?
I did. I love it.
Yeah, I think this is his best card. I just think it's super cool.
You like that better
than 71?
What's that?
Better than the 71?
All right. You got me. I think 71's better. Yeah.
But it's a top one. I was about to kick you off this podcast.
It's a top one. Yeah.
Okay. Here's my favorite 73 card. This Yogi Berra. You know why, Mike?
Why?
I bought it off of you.
I think I had like 3 of that. The Starter card in 73 cracks me up too.
Well, I have a question on that. I used to think that was Mike Schmidt running to first. It's the wrong number, but I'm wondering, could it be him like a late call up in September with the wrong number? Or
I don't think so.
Different now. Just throw it out there. Thought maybe it could have been. Because there's a few cards. I think Bobby Bonds has Stargell going back to first. Like there's some cards where you have 2 Hall of Famers in them in the 73s, I think.
Well, there's a lot of Hall of Famers in the 73s that are unknown. Did you know Larry Doby has a card in 73 tops?
Is he a coach?
Yeah.
Coach on the Expos. So Ernie Banks is a coach. Eddie Matthews is a coach.
Eddie Matthews, yeah.
There's just Whitey Herzog has his first manager's card. So there's a lot of that too. Again, we're only talking about certain sets because we like them, dislike them, or find them underrated. But I think through this we're able to talk about some of these other ones. George, what's your most? I said 79 is my most underrated set, which of course Don just scoffed at. But George, what do you think is your most underrated set?
I had 79 as an underrated set. I had 73 as an underrated set. I just think like 73 has so many just cool cards. I mean, like here's a Richie Allen. I mean, he's just look at that. That's what he does, right? He's just going to crank it like 450 feet. You get the Boyhood Pictures of the Stars. There's a Gaylord. So I had this as an underrated set. I had 1977 as an underrated set because again, it's the All-Star banner. It's how colorful they are. You know, all the All-Stars seem to be really, really good players, you know. I know, though, that it suffers from same kind of like card stock issues. I'm trying to think here. I wish I had a 77 Toby Hara, Mike, for you.
I wish you did too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, the 77 set to me, there's some really benign cards, but there's some really nice one. That's a George Brett. Obviously, you've got the Andre Dawson rookie, and Murphy's not a Hall of Famer, but you got his rookie too. You got Munson. Here's a Munson. But you can see I'm gravitating towards the All-Star cards.
Yeah, I got Bruce Suter's rookie.
So I think that it's just maybe kind of like 79. People don't look for it unless they're looking for star cards that they can't find in 71, 75, the more prominent sets of the era. But I mean, they're beautiful cards and the colors are nice and they're super condition sensitive. So I had 73 for sure. Oh, one last thing, Mike. Here's from a collection, bad cuts. There's a 73 Ryan that, there's another card. Here's another one. There's another card at the bottom.
You got some really miscut Ryans. I love it. It's still an old Ryan card at the end of the day.
That's true. And it's got part of another guy on it too.
Right. Don, what's your least or most underrated set, I should say?
I'm shocked because I'm actually agreeing with George for once on a set. But for me, I went with 1977 as well. Again, maybe it has a lot to do with I was opening 1977 cards. It was the second year for me. But I just think it's a great set. I love the Gary Carter. I think the Winfield is a nice card. And they are simple, which goes against what I was saying for my least favorite set. But, I like the little flag on top, going with the team name. I've got Stargell there. I like this Ted Simmons. So, again, 70s is a little different for me than 60s and 50s because I've got a personal bias or a history with these cards, and they just bring back so many great memories. So when I look at a 76 or a 77, that's my roots of collecting cards, and that's when I started. And so I'll always look at those two sets as being special to me. And you guys will, I'm sure, when you do the 80s, feel the same way about sets that you first remember opening. But it's those two sets for me just stand out. And again, they may not be the nicest, although I do like the way they look, but they just have so much meaning to me that they're going to be on top.
There's one set left in the decade that we haven't mentioned at all. And I want to ask you guys why you think that is. And that's 78 Topps. Is it one of those just completely nondescript sets that nobody wants to, that just kind of, it's just there?
When I went through my collection of 70 cards, and I'm just talking about my slabbed ones, I only own two. And I have a Rice and a Fisk. And, it didn't cross my mind when you said favorite cards, and it didn't come across my mind when you said favorite cards. So I think you might have nailed it there, Mike. They're just sort of nondescript, that's got the cursive handwriting on it. But, they're okay. I don't dislike them, but they just...
That's a cool looking Guidry card, though, isn't it? He's kicking major tail at that time. He's definitely
lightning.
Hubby.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about this set?
I don't mind it. Again, I think I was pulling packs, like opening packs. I opened at least 5 packs or whatever when I was really, really little. there's some cards that will blow you away in 78. And I mean, it's because of the time period and what was going on. But I mean, like this card, I don't have it graded, but this card is one of the best cards of the 70s because of how popular this guy was. You know, I mean, Reggie, this is just,
right.
It's, you know, you get that all-star badge, which is kind of strange, right? If they had a banner up there or something, it might be better, but every all-star has a badge.
I actually like the badge because it's the red, white, and blue. I like it actually.
I like it, but I just, you know, the red, white, and blue I like too. But I think this card like is just like Reggie in the 70s, Yankee with the Yankees, doing what he does. I mean, his left knee is almost on the ground like it was all the time. And, you know, he had just come off the World Series with the 3 swings and 3 homers.
Yeah, he actually has 3 cards in the 78 set. He has the record breaker, the base card, and then he has a World Series card.
Yeah, so. I don't necessarily dislike it. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot of graded cards of the set. Of course, I love George Brett, so I eventually got to get this one. He has a chaw in his mouth. And then
even
like, you got to have the Carew, right?
Like I don't have the Carew graded. I've got it.
Where he's taking his helmet off, right?
What's that?
The Carew, he's taking his helmet off, right?
Yeah, it's sideways, and he's taking his helmet off and taking, like, I think his baseball cap out of it. But I guess these cards just don't have like a lot of. Here's a Seaver. There's not a lot going on. It's just like, here, pose for it. We're in spring training. There's nobody in the background. The Reggie's kind of different with, you know, his card, but I like the Carter. It's kind of cool. I can't say I dislike these cards, but yeah, I'm just not feeling that. I certainly would rather have some 77s than the 78s.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did. Just the 78 just gets like, okay, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Don, I want to ask you as we kind of close up here, name off the top of your head 2, 3, 4, 5 of your favorite cards from the whole decade, if you could do that.
One was the 76 Johnny Bench that I showed.
Yeah.
71 Clemente.
Great card. Absolutely great card.
The 73 Seaver and Fisk. And the 73 Bench too. Would probably off the top of my head.
Nice. George, what about you? Favorite cards from the decade overall?
Yeah, there's so many. I like Thurman Munson cards. I think he's got a great run, just like in the 60s. Roberto Clemente has a great run. I think Bench has a great run of cards. I think that Reggie I just showed from 78. I think the 72 Clemente, the 71 Clemente is awesome. I was looking for it. I had it here somewhere. But
here, I'll put mine up while you look for it.
What's that?
I'll put mine up while you look for it.
Oh, okay. It's hard to pick. I mean, there's so many cards that I really like of these Hall of Famers that we would be watching. As they got older. Here's a Clemente, but I mean the Brett 75 Brett is outstanding. There's just so many cards. I really like the 77 Carew, won the MVP that year and almost hit 400. I could probably just go on and on. So, and 75 has some just great cards. I don't know. I know. Just want to go to the minis real quick. I know you were talking about them being the same, but like, I guess my research was that they were produced and distributed in Michigan and the West Coast. So you wouldn't get any minis packs if you lived in New York or, Florida or anything like that. What about you, Mike?
Well, I said earlier, the Munson 71, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Every card he has, even the 79 makes sense because, he died and it's like the 79, he's just sitting there and he's just like, here I am, he's kind of got that sideways pose. I don't have my 79s or 78s out, so I can't grab that. If anybody has the 79 Munson.
Can I tell a story real quick? About Munson and that card real quick. I remember I didn't really know who Thurman Munson was. I had heard of him because he was in the World Series, but at the time I was born in 72, go figure, my favorite set. But I remember my friends in the neighborhood came to my door and they said, this is in 79, they said, Thurman Munson died. I'm like, what? Who's that? Why is that important? You know, so I kind of remember. And then I remember after that, we were all trying to find a Thurman Munson, you know, of that card. He looks real gruff in the card and everything. But I just remember that moment. I was like somebody important. You knew he was somebody important. And I think at the time, I was like 7 when that happened.
Yeah, that happened in, I think, Akron, Ohio, where our buddy Scott Reindeer Studio lives, which isn't too far from here, where he crashed the plane.
I mean, I think
card is awesome too. The one where he's standing with a mask in his hand.
Yeah. Oh, that's the 78.
Yeah, that's a great card.
Yeah, actually, I had that card at PSA right now, and it's probably not going to do any better than like an 8 or a 7. And I don't care because it's a cool card, so I just want to get it slabbed.
Yeah, I don't think Munson's one of those guys that he would have played probably 3 or 4 more years and would definitely be in the Hall of Fame had he gotten to do that. I think he still has an outside shot of becoming a Veterans Committee pick somewhere down the road. But the further we get away from players like that, I think the harder it's going to get for them to get in and not remembering how great he was at that time. Because he was the best catcher. Him and Fisk were the best catchers in the American League, hands down, right? And in the National League, you had Bench and Simmons were the best catchers.
And Carter towards the end.
And Carter towards the end, right?
The 70s. But, a couple 70s. We didn't even show 70s cards at all.
1970?
Yeah, Clemente.
Should we get after it?
Spargel. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people least favorite set. I like this, but Bench has so many great cards.
He does, right? Fergie.
The Reggie.
Oh, that Reggie's great too.
Yeah.
Either one of you have the 75 Frank Robinson manager's card?
Yes.
I was watching Ken Burns last night, and I didn't realize this. I knew that he was the first American League manager, and I knew he was the only guy to win MVPs in both leagues, but I didn't know that he was also the National League's first manager of the Giants. I was like, that's wild.
Yeah. Here's his 75.
Doesn't he have a card that says manager / designated hit, or does it just say designated hitter?
No, because he has a base card in the set too.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but it doesn't say manager on it, does it? I'm not sure.
Designated hitter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could become more important card. It's an important card. But I was doing research talking about the top 10 cards of the 70s today. Not like rookies, but just the Fidrich and stuff like that.
Love the Fidrich cards too. I forgot about him.
Yeah, it just says designated hitter on the 75 base.
Gotcha.
Anything on the back of that card about him being the manager?
Nope.
Interesting.
It does. There's trivia questions on the back of 75 tops.
Right.
Name the only player manager, and the answer on his own card is Frank Robinson.
Okay.
That's fantastic. I'd never
You know you're awesome when you're your own trivia question.
Right.
Right.
That's fantastic.
So one quick question for you guys. What other than these Topps cards, what other sets or types of cards did you think are really, really neat in the 70s that you can think of off the top of your head?
I mean, again, going back to living in the 70s and looking at these cards, I remember just buying tons of Hostess Twinkies and Ho-Hos and trimming those cards off the back. And I still have them, and they're all crooked and got my D on the back of them all. And, I'm not going to say all of them because Mike and I had talked about a few of them offline that I let him talk about. But I love the Hostess cards.
The Kellogg's.
Yeah,
Clemente.
Kellogg starts in 1970, putting out cards. They did for their entire decade. In 72, they did the all-time baseball greats. So thinking about 76 tops and the all-time all-stars, there's a 15-card set for Kellogg's, the all-time baseball greats. Such an easy set. If you want to go get a set of just all-time, there's 2 Ruth cards in it. They're very affordable. And really cool looking. The 3D, you know, I mean, it screams awesome to me. All those, and they came up with wacky designs, you know, later. The only lame ones of the Kellogg's, I think, are the 73s because they got away from the 3D thing. They just made cards. So I'm showing a Nolan Ryan right now, which is, it's not a bad card. It's just relative to the other Kellogg's cards, it's not nearly as cool.
I totally agree with you. I mean, those 3D cards are awesome, and I have a Karoo of the 73, and it was cheaply priced for what it was, and it's the only one I've ever bought because I was looking at the Ryan, and I'm like, I don't know, you know, it's not, the 3D thing is really cool. You remember you put in your hands like you get a box of cereal and you just stuff your arm down there looking for the cards.
Another cheap set to buy if you want to get some Hall of Famers is the 75 SSPC set. I mean, it's not the most attractive set in the world, but you've got, I know there's Dennis Eckersley in that set, which predates his 76 tops.
I think
there is Brett.
There's a Brett and there's a Yount.
What's the story behind those, Mike, or the history? Like,
how about Ted Williams when he's not even in baseball anymore, in a Rangers uniform, no less?
Cool. I like that.
Nice. That's cool.
I wish I knew more about this set. I would be just guessing if I started to talk about what that set, where it came from and how it developed.
I don't know about that set.
I don't want to guess.
I'm sure someone will, and please do in the comments if you guys know anything about that set.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of those like 12 years ago of like, you know, Karoo, Bench, Rose, Ryan. They were all in 10s, and the dude was just giving them away like $100 for like 12 cards. Caleb Bruce on the Royals in that SSPC set, you know that, yeah. So it's like, wow, these are neat cards, and like they're from 1975, and like they're acting like they're, you know, 1990s baseball. Here, take them. I'm like, fine, I'll store them at my house. You know, well, any other cards that you guys like think are funny cards or, you know, odd cards from the 70s? I know that it was a vintage card curator that was talking about the Bill Blass from 73.
Steve Blass, you mean?
Steve Blass, yeah, that's it, Donna. Any funny cards?
Yeah, you've got 76 tops. You've got the bubblegum blowing champ of Kurt Bavacqua. Which I think is a hilarious card. You've got in Tops Traded 76, you've got the fro of all fros, the Oscar Gamble.
Oh, Mike, you read my mind. 75 Oscar Gamble. Mini, Don. It's a mini. It's autographed.
That's all right.
But the 76 Traded is like the Oscar Gamble card.
Yeah, it is. It says Yankees take gamble on Oscar. Like, very creative tops. Like, how'd you come up with that one? You know,
here's your 79. I always like this Bill Madlock. That hat is barely on his head.
Bro.
Yeah, barely. And he's gonna go and hit you 320. So there were so many cool cards in the 70s. We could like funny cards, unique cards. I'm sure there's like some Al Habrowskis or somebody like that. It would be a great card.
Or he's got some in there.
The Mad Hungarian. Yeah. But I agree with you, Don. I like this. I like the Hostess cards from the 70s.
Yeah.
They came in 3-card panels, right, on the back of a box, and you could cut them out. So
yeah, those are neat.
But man, wait till the 80s because there's so many oddball, weird, goofy things that start happening in the 80s. But that's for the next episode, which, oh, by the way, George, you want to tell them, since we're finishing up here with the 70s, what we're going to do for the 80s?
Yeah, we're going to do the 80s on my channel. Probably it'll be premiering. I don't want to put heat on to do it immediately, but it'll probably be premiering in about 7 to 10 days. And Mike and I are going to do it, and we're going to have another guest. Don has been awesome here with the 70s and the 60s and the 50s. And so we're gonna do that. So be on the lookout for that as well. Man, this has been so much fun. This really has been so much fun. I've been looking forward to this every week, hanging out, pulling out all these cards. I'm sitting here, all these cards are here, and I know we all want to like show off all of them, you know.
Right.
But this has been great, especially with you two guys and your knowledge. I really have had a good time, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, and I second those sentiments, George. This was so much fun, and I've heard other people say, "Oh, I wish I could have been on," and I'm very fortunate that I was on, and encourage you guys. When I say you guys, just people out there on YouTube, do this with some of your friends as well. It'd be interesting to hear what you guys come up with, and I'm looking forward to the '80s. I kind of bailed out in '83 because I was in high school, and beer and girls and playing sports was a little more important to me than sports cards at that point in my life. So looking forward to seeing you guys do that show as well. And again, thanks for having me. It's been a blast. These 3 weeks flew by. I'm gonna have withdrawal next week without doing one of these.
Yeah, y'all have been great guys to go through this with. I saw the same comments about people wanting, man, can I be on? And I don't think this is like an idea, as Don said, that someone else can't do. There's no patents pending on any of this stuff. You know, if you love the idea, and it's not stealing it, it's not being lazy. It's, hey, I want to get some of my friends together and talk about these decades too. We'd love to see. I'd love to see it. Quite frankly, I would have no problem with that. And it's not. There's no copyright infringement or anything. Like, who cares? We're all.
Yeah, I think people could go through. I mean, we could have sat here probably and gone through the 75 set for an hour, easy,
Right.
and just talked about it. And like, hey, what about the Herb Washington pinch runner card?
Right.
You know, we didn't mention that. I mean,
Right.
so we could go through
greatest 300, or whatever that collection there, Mike.
It is.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's been a blast
forever. But everybody, thanks for following along with us on this journey through these last 3 decades. Be looking out on George's channel, which is Diamond Yard Sports Cards. Go check it out. Go subscribe if you haven't, because we'll be on there, George and I, with a special surprise guest who we don't even know who it is yet. So it'll be a surprise to us too. And we will see you guys at that next week. I'm going to have another episode of Golden Age Cardboard. We'll get back to some other things, but thank you guys for doing this. We'll catch you guys soon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. As always, keep collecting.